Scunthorpe United have lost 4-0 at home to Exeter City this afternoon.
Love it.
Scunthorpe United have lost 4-0 at home to Exeter City this afternoon.
Love it.
Scunthorpe United have lost 4-0 at home to Exeter City this afternoon.
Love it.
Open wide for some soccer!
Good evening, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us. Apologies for a very extended interlude of videos as I go through our entire back catalogue of anything we've cobbled together. Thank you, one and all, for joining us. I am joined today, and poor Liam doesn't need to hear us talk about beating Aldershot and frustrations against drawing with Kings Lynn. But Liam, thank you so much for joining us. Liam is from the wonderful All at Sea fanzine, one of the few clubs in the country that can turn around to us and go, "You think you've got it rough?"
3 years. It's been a very, very long 3 years. You'll be able to hear my voice because I was there cheering at Woking yesterday. We're really enjoying ourselves now. But thanks, Alex. Thanks everyone for having us. It's very kind of you to offer.
I know, our pleasure. It's always worth it. It's always worth a follow on your account just to sort of reflect on our usual cataclysmic explosions of anger when we draw at home to Kings Lynn. Henry, your house is looking more and more like a Zoom background as the weeks go on. Yeah, I think it's the plant pot. I think it's the house plant.
No, house plants everywhere, mate.
It's usually the sign of a good room. It's a good sign of design.
It's not mine, I can assure you.
Speaking of good interior design, no house is complete without a 1998 auto windscreen shield winning shirt hung on its wall. Bruce, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, mate. I'm all right.
Good.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, actually. I'm a bit disappointed. I mean, I'm the only happy man in Aldershot, as we titled the show, which is quite nice. But going around and, blasting out up the Mariners doesn't really have much effect around here, really. Mostly because most of the shops are as closed as they are on Freeman Street. Well, I mean, I looked at these 4 games at the start of in the last couple of months. So, 4 wins. This looks like Kings Lynn, Wealdstone, Aldershot, Southend, and now all of a sudden Southend have decided to become the most informed team in the entire league. Liam, what is going on, and why are you no longer a collapsing clown car of a football club?
It's just clicked. The major difference is that in the summer, Stan Collymore got involved with the football club. Insisted one of the things that we've argued for was a chief executive to actually run the football club as an operation and take it out of the hands of the chairman, because the chairman puts the money into the club, but in terms of actually operating the football club, he's appalling. So in the summer we got a chief executive in, that improved things to some extent. Phil Brown's tenure just collapsed. I think by the time we played you in November, Kevin Mayer had been in the job for about a month. But really, a load of the backroom staff has changed sort of around that point in the season, and we've gone from trying to keep things tight, trying to sort of hold on, trying to just sort of grind points out, and we're really playing on the front foot now. We were able to come out of the embargo around about the turn of the new year. We signed half dozen or so players. Hungry players, good players. We've been able to cast off some of the older hands that have been at the club too long, or perhaps shouldn't have been there in the first place. And they're working hard. We've had a change of formation. We now play a 5-2-3 with some quite aggressive wing backs, which is nice. I think that has wrong-footed quite a lot of our opposition. We were playing quite a sterile sort of 4-5-1 prior to that, trying to keep everything tight. We're now able to play on the front foot. We move the ball quickly. We move the ball with purpose. And there's danger in sort of every area of the pitch. We look competent, which is great. Can I swear?
Yeah.
We look competent, and it's fucking brilliant.
If you didn't swear, I was going to in a minute. I'm shitting myself for Friday now.
I know.
You've just described Barcelona in the noughties.
I mean,
yeah, sorry, come.
No, the only thing I'm going to tell you, Bruce, is this: it's 90th minute, 0-0. No one has had a shot on target, and breaks through on goal comes Harry Cardwell, looming in on the town fans behind him as he slots it home for the first time we've ever seen in our lives. That's the only image I've got coming into my head at the moment.
He won the best penalty I've ever seen at Swindon.
Yeah, I mean, was that him? I thought that was Harry. It wasn't even in the area.
The defender wasn't even looking, was he? You want to have a look at that, Liam. Grimsby against Swindon about 3 or 4 years ago. It was the defender didn't even see him, and he just fell over his leg, and we got a vital 1-0 win on the way to staying up.
You take them every time, every single time.
I mean, we would take a penalty, but it ain't going in. Harry, what were you going to say?
So who stood out, Liam, as the key signings then? Who should we be worried about on Friday?
So I think key signings, we've made some good moves up front. Callum Powell has come in. He looks very dangerous. This always feels like a sort of weird thing to say when talking about football, but he kicks the ball well. He strikes the ball very.
It doesn't down in this league. Let's be honest.
Yeah. It always feels such a juvenile way of describing things, but that is sort of all of their jobs is to do good kicks, and he does good kicks. He strikes the ball cleanly. He He strikes the ball hard and with purpose. He's not afraid to take players on. He's quick and nimble, and we've missed someone like that in the forward line. So he looks very dangerous. Noor Hussin, who is an Afghan refugee who we signed in January, has looked really, really neat and tidy in midfield, plays with his head up, keeps the ball moving, recycles possession, does a bit of everything, defends well, protects the back four, but also keeps supplying the wing backs who like to bomb on, and also supply the front three and make sure that the ball is constantly moving and just keeps defenders on their toes. When you move the ball around quickly, you've got to concentrate so much more. And we've done really well in terms of scoring a lot of late goals, which is a thing. Well, scoring any goal is what we've struggled with over the past few years, but scoring late goals is something that we've been really good at in this run over the past 8 or 9 games or whatever it's been. So yeah, they look really good. Steve Arnold came in the summer. Previous goalkeeper was Mark Oxley, who was pretty good, but very inconsistent. Steve Arnold has looked brilliant this year. He's had a couple of off games like quite early on, but he's becoming a bit of a cult hero. So good solid goalkeeper, good solid midfield, and now a bit of flair up front. It's genuinely looking really positive. And there was a point where I just never, because it gets to the stage where you just think you're never going to say that again. It really does get to the stage where you think, okay, so this is just us forever now.
Yeah,
when did you this might be a question that you'll probably say no to, but when was the time you looked and went, how does relegation from this league actually work?
Have
you looked?
I haven't looked at it.
Okay.
Because it was very much a sort of cross that bridge when we come to it. I am confused about that. Because obviously Dover are pretty much gone. But then I still don't understand how regional football works. Do they move the line? Do they move the north-south line every year?
I think so, because Hereford are in the Northern League.
That's insane.
Yeah. And I think we were once in Division 3 South, Alex, for a season.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why we played more playing teams than ever.
One season, I think we were.
Mad. So no, I haven't looked at it. The prospect has terrified me. Really, really terrified me. There's a great, I always cite this. There was a great thread by, I've forgotten his name, the chairman of Accrington Stanley, who said, getting out of non-league and staying is so important because the money that comes in when you're in the football league enables you to build your football club. And then he said, when he got Accrington into League One, suddenly he was able to do so much more, because if you get relegated out of League Two, the money just completely falls off a cliff. Whereas at least if you get relegated out of League One, worst case scenarios, you've got a buffer. And when I looked at the possibility of us going into the Conference South, I wasn't worried about like the caliber of teams that we were going to play, because that's very insulting to them. I was more worried about the fact that we just never get out of it, because we just never have that income again. We just never be able to do it. So I haven't looked at how it worked, but I genuinely was worried about it. I would say there was a point, I don't know the exact date, but like the chairman was coming. The chairman confronted the fans at Solihull when we were playing there.
Because that went a bit viral, didn't it? I remember seeing that.
Yeah, because what on earth was he thinking? What did he, like, he was one man. He is like the focal point of all of the anger. We had 8,000 people on Tuesday night when we played Bromley. We had over 8,000 people in that ground. They all think he's a prick. So what on earth was he doing? Admittedly, this was like 4 months ago or whatever, but what on earth, what dialogue did he think he was going to have? What benefit did he see in one person approaching a group of rabid Southend fans who have spent 3 years watching their team be the worst side in England?
Do you still, though, have a set of, for the want of a better phrase, sycophants who still idolise what he does? Because that's what we found here when we had our death by a 1,000 paper cuts owner.
I wouldn't say they idolise him, but they're certainly apologists. There are lots of people that say, "Oh, well, he always puts money into the football club, and he got us out of the embargo, and all sorts."
The club wouldn't be here if he wasn't here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but also the club wouldn't be in non-league if he wasn't here either. So, you know, I really get that it's a bet, and for years it was a better the devil you know situation, because you can look at Coventry and you can look at Bury and you can look at all of these and Charlton as well for a number of years.
That comes up all the time. I mean, we could be Bury. I was like, but there are lots of fans. There are lots of teams above us go. We could be Grimsby.
There's about 85 teams that we could be that are better, but people always name the 3 or 4 that have gone to shit. Yeah, it could be like you say. We could be
Workington. Yeah, and for a little while it was you could be Southend. I think the issue was that like I say, I was a bit of a for years. I sort of thought, oh well, better the devil you know. He always puts his hand in the pocket. He always puts his hand in his pocket. Sorry, he's sort of like the club is in a comatose state, but Ron Martin is the life support machine. And what we struggled with is that started to really not kick in as it should have done in the last few years. So around about that sort of time, I would say Mayer came in October. So I would say anything between mid-September and mid-October, I was really worried that we were going to be in trouble, because Dover take up one space, but that hasn't stopped us before. We got relegated in the season that COVID finished. Bolton had something like a 20-point deduction, 12-point deduction, whatever it was. By the time they finished the League One table and did all the points per game, Bolton had actually overtaken us. So we got relegated the year that there were only 3 places available. We still finished bottom. And then when we got relegated from League Two, only 2 teams go down, and we were still one of them. It was. So I was really, really worried this year. Really worried.
We had that once. We were the worst team in the country, and we only stayed up because 2 teams had got 17 and 24-point deductions or something.
Oh yeah, Luton, wasn't it? Luton got 30-point deduction. And Bournemouth still overtook us with minus 17.
Bournemouth overtook us, and so our board at the time and did absolutely nothing, and then we went down the next season.
They did get carried off aloft off the pitch at Bournemouth, didn't they? I have no idea why.
That had to be a family thing. That had to be a family thing. There was no way that
a lot of mates.
That was horrendous. But we were the worst team in the country. Would have finished bottom, but I think Darlington have points as well.
Oh no, I think wasn't it Chester.
Anyways, but we were the worst team and for 2 seasons running.
And do you think the terrible start to the season you've had has actually helped your fans acclimatise to the league? Because what we found was there was a lot of sort of, we can't be losing to teams like Braintree. We can't be losing to teams like Bromley. Like we're a big league club. We're here because we are, but we found it took our fans quite a while to sort of acclimatise the first time round. Has that happened with you?
I think there was definitely an expectation that we would be that we would have finally found our level. I think that there was definitely, especially because the first game of the season we beat Kings Lynn, and we weren't convincing, but we did win. They weren't very good, and they remain not very good. And I don't think that's unfair to say, because that's where they are in the table. But
we will go on to our draw with Kings Lynn in a minute.
Well, in fairness, we beat them at their place with a very, very scrappy goal, and we beat them at our place with a penalty in like the 91st minute that was never, ever, ever a penalty. You think your decision at Swindon was bad? If you go on our YouTube highlights for our game against Kings Lynn the other weekend, the striker, the defender, makes a completely clean tackle. The ball moves at a right angle, and the referee, the only person in the ground out of about 6,000 people, was the one that gave it. Absolutely delighted to take it. No, I don't think it has helped us acclimatise. I think what it's done is it's because generally what happens when you follow a lower league side, you don't generally look at the teams in the division below you. You tend to look at the teams in your division. You tend to look at your club, the teams in your division, and the level above. So I think that I think what has been a bit of a wake up call is the sort of overall quality of football teams. Yeah, you've got it there. That's great. The overall quality of football teams in the National League is very good. Yeah, this is great. He just wins the ball. It's not a great angle because the other defender's there, but the ball moves at a right angle, and that was like the 91st minute or something like that.
I don't think I've seen a penalty put away this season yet.
So you've been on this great run of form. You got a good result against Bromley, who our favourite team on this podcast, obviously. So, what are your expectations?
I fucking hate Bromley.
But what are your expectations? You know, are you eyeing sort of maybe playoffs?
There's definitely talk about it.
Well, was it 8 points behind?
There's definitely talk about playoffs. I think the thing that is likely to scupper that is goal difference. So to get us out of this situation, we've now put a 20-point gap between us and the relegation places. So I will now say that I expect us not to get relegated. Mid-February, 20 points, and we've also got something like our goal difference is something like 18 goals better than the team occupying the final relegation spot. So I'll confidently say I expect us not to get relegated. I don't expect us to get to the playoffs. I think we've given ourselves a real shout. One of the best things about the form that we've had at the moment is when we've picked up teams in this, we've picked up points against teams in this run who are around and about where we were in the table. So sort of like mid to lower table and relegation teams as well. And we've played well, but then we have played other games against teams like Bromley, and we've looked really good, and we've played on the front foot, and we've dominated games. We played Aldershot the other week. I don't know if I expect you didn't go to that, Alex, but I did, and I've not seen us play with. I've not seen us dominate the ball like that in such a long time. And I think the advantage that you've got is that what happens is you can play like that against teams that aren't very good. And then there's this assumption that just when a better team turns up, that you're going to be a bit more defensive or a bit more cagey, or look to control the time of the game and the pace of the game rather than actually control the ball in the game. One of the things I think we're going to be able to do, there's now a lot of confidence in this playing squad, and it's great to see. And there's a better mentality. For years, every time we would concede, we'd often concede in pairs. We'd often concede goals within 10 minutes of each other. And we don't look like doing that now. We still concede goals, but I'd never rule us out of the game, because I always think that at this point we could score one or two and we could still come back into it. So the advantage that we have, there's an argument that says there's talk of the playoffs, and I think there's right to be some talk about it, because we're about to start playing teams in the top half of the table, and if we can take points off them, then why not? But the goal difference that protects us from relegation is also likely to be the sort of thing that is a differentiator at the end of the season. Is likely to be the thing to actually keep us out of the playoffs. But however many games left, there's probably, I don't know how many we've played. The table was up there a second ago. God, my voice is really raspy, isn't it? Why not? We'll give it a go.
You've played 27 games, and you, like you say, your goal difference is 8 goals worse than the team above you at the minute, and 19 goals worse than the team above them.
Yeah, so that's the sort of thing.
So it's another point, isn't it? It's another point.
Yeah, because if it was 1 or 2 goals and we all play each other, then you would say that's a bit edgier. But 19 goals is a big swing, even with the amount of games that we've got left to play. So we'll see. I think, at this point, considering where morale was in the squad, considering what quality was like on the pitch, considering just where the club was at, where the fans were at, where the chairman was at, considering almost every aspect of the football club 3 or 4 months ago and where we are now, we're almost looking at every game now as a free hit, because we're out of a relegation battle. And let's give it a go, because all you're doing now is you're trying to galvanize morale. You're trying to increase competition for players. A lot of players will have their contracts up in the end of the summer, so they want to get into a team. They want to play well in a team that's winning. They want to be part of a team that's winning, because it might keep them at the club next year. And then I think, without the horrendous start that we've had, and if we can genuinely sort ourselves out and not be in a transfer embargo for enormous proportions of the season, and we can recruit well in the summer, as we have done over the winter, then why not next season? I think we could make a real go for it.
Well, I mean, that sounds terrifying. Brilliant. For those of you, so we'll wrap it up, I guess, by asking sort of, for those of them who are making the trip, firstly, Friday night, why? But secondly, What should fans be going? Where's the pub that everyone should go to? Anywhere decent to eat? That sort of stuff.
So historically, we've had a load of we've always looked for games on Friday nights. It's been a bit of a tradition in South Essex, as you can imagine. There's lots of fans of London clubs in Essex and in Southend in particular, and so one of the things that we've tried to do sort of historically is avoid clashes with West Ham and Spurs and all of those sorts of things. So Friday nights have always been good because it's meant bumper crowds and the atmosphere is a little bit better, and it does, you know, it to some extent, because you want a bit of back and forth with the fans, but also if you can get a big crowd in and if you can get a couple of pints in before the game and have a good mood on a Friday night, then it helps the home crowd as well. So, and also maybe revenge after what happened earlier on in the season. I don't know. In terms of pubs, depends on if you're getting the train or if you're getting the coach or whatever you're doing. I would say that the fish and chip shop just off Victoria Avenue is well worth visiting. That's really, really good. I am a bit of a craft beer nerd. Not nerd, that's not fair. I'm a brewer, so I just like good beer. So I would say go to the West Road Tap, which is a little bit away from the ground, but well worth going to. And then you can go to an independent pub called Craftworks in town. Essentially, Southend is a bit of a sort of standard English high street because it's just full of chains. Yeah, there's some good places out there. Craftworks is good. If you're getting the train into town, Craftworks is a good place to go and check out as well for a nice pint.
We'll have to try it. Gents, have you got any more questions for Liam before we let him go and he doesn't have to listen to us bang on about Kings Lynn?
Is it inappropriate to ask where our fans buy drugs?
Yeah, no, I assume we get them all on the train, innit?
Anywhere you want. County Lines is really good down here. Home counties, isn't it? The Albanians have got the whole country on lock. So yeah, the phone numbers you've got in Cleethorpes will probably work. They'll probably know someone down here.
Perfect.
If you do hear someone with an Eastern European accent, then please do go up to them and ask them if they've got any drugs for you, especially if they work for the Times, and they probably will. Can I check that? I need to check that on the legal thing.
I think as long as you say allegedly, it's fine.
Allegedly,
yeah.
Allegedly, if they allegedly work from the Times, they allegedly might have drugs that they have allegedly got. Liam, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully, you enjoy the season. We'll do the old cliche thing of after Friday, and we shall hopefully see you there as well.
Cheers, lads. Yeah, I look forward to it. All the best for the rest of the year.
Mate.
You too.
Cheers,
see you later, mate. Well, that sounds terrifying.
Well, I don't know. It'd be an interesting test. They haven't beaten anyone good in this run. I was looking through it.
Well, I guess. Well, speaking of not beating anyone good, we drew with Kings Lynn. Tommy Widrington's Kings Lynn, and the Hurst outers, the doubters, and the non-happy clappers were very annoyed. What did we think of that? What were your thoughts?
I can't even remember Tuesday, if I'm honest.
There's a lot.
I've eradicated it. Yeah, it was basically they parked the bus. We couldn't break them down, ultimately. And they had a couple of chances at the end where they could have nicked it, which is what happens when you hold a team for sort of 75 minutes and you get a bit of confidence that you might, and as a town fan, you're always shitting yourself that they are going to do that. And I think, was it Widrington's lad or Chris Hargreaves' lad? I think it was Hargreaves' lad, wasn't it, that had a chance? Where
his dad would have been fucking furious.
header that went wide. He was a very proud man, wasn't he, Chris, on Tuesday when his lad played at Blundell Park, and why not? But yeah, we just struggled. We laboured. We just didn't. And the longer it went on, and I thought I can remember a little bit now. I thought on Tuesday, our substitutions, we kept we were knocking at the door, and we brought the subs on with 20 minutes to go. And I thought actually we got worse after we brought the subs on and we ran out of patience and we started hoofing it long. Whereas I think we might have had a better chance if we'd have just sort of carried on the way we were knocking at the door. We might have finally broken it down.
There was Matt Dannett, who is a good friend of mine and is an eternal optimist and a very big Hurst fan, was quite critical of his performance as a manager that game, saying that we took too long to change plans, or we didn't change plans at all. And also the old cliche that Hurst took quite a while to bring on any subs. And when he did, they were just like for likes. They didn't change anything that they were going on. And that was probably one of his problems last time round. Is that something you saw on the day? Obviously, unfortunately, I listened to it on the radio, but John Tonder and Gary Croft were definitely getting more and more frustrated as the seconds passed. Did you see any change in the way that the team approached Kings Lynn, or was it just we'll get a goal?
As I say, I think we were doing okay up to sort of 65 minutes. We were knocking at the door, creating a few chances. We just didn't take them, which has been it's been our sort of Achilles heel for the last couple of months, really, hasn't it? And we still struggled. I still think we're struggling to create goals in open play. I'm looking back at our recent goals yesterday, which we'll come on to. But we scored one from a free kick against Notts County. Wheelston was a corner and a free kick. We are creating a few chances, but we still don't look clinical enough. And I know that sounds silly. I don't want to go on too much about yesterday because we'll come to that in a minute. But we still don't look clinical enough for me quite.
Only Boreham Wood and Solihull Moors have scored less goals than us above us in the table. There's a lot of teams on very similar amounts. Wrexham have scored the same. God, could you imagine Wrexham? Wrexham scored the same amount of goals as us this season. All that money for fucking 42 goals. I guess it might be well. That's a good thing. I guess it's worth pointing out and making a work. Obviously, Tishmanga for Chesterfield sadly sort of looks like he might have broken his leg in the challenge yesterday, which I saw, and it looked a relatively fair one. It's a tackle I would like to see a midfielder make. That's going to be a massive blow to them as they sort of fight for top spot. And we can't expect to see him until next season, I guess. I don't know if anybody's got any thoughts on that. My only thought would be, I hope he gets well soon, and that's what happens when you put all your eggs in one black basket, I guess.
Yeah, it's tough for that.
Yeah.
It's really tough. I'd agree with Bruce generally. I think we seem to have turned the corner with recent results to an extent, but I think there are still some underlying issues, I think, in terms of how clinical we are. And whether we've got enough about us to turn that around to really contend for a playoff spot. I know we're on the edge of it, but I think the games in hand, once they're all played out, will have us somewhere probably around ninth, a few points behind. And it's been a concern for a few weeks. And, in the first half against Notts County, we were moaning about it, missed the penalty, hit the bar, and we turned it around. And it sounds like Tuesday at Kings Lynn, it's one of those games where I think I feel like Saturday was how Kings Lynn should have gone, if that makes sense. A very early goal opened it up. For the first few minutes, Aldershot had a 5 at the back and were very defensive. And the minute that we scored, they had to switch it up. And that led to enough chances and enough of their mistakes once they did have to sort of try and push forward a bit that we ended up scoring 3 fairly comfortably.
I think it shows as well. That's what a podge is for. Sort of when you've got that game, he just sticks a foot out from nowhere and it sort of just goes in. And I think that's what we've been sadly missing that all season.
Yeah, we were saying this on Saturday. I think the previous seasons when we didn't go up, I think there's a lot of similarities in this team. And then the one time that we did do it, the year we went up, it wasn't a great season, really. We sort of limped into the playoffs and we weren't really that hopeful. But what we did have was Podge and Bogle, and, against certain teams, they would find a scrappy goal, or you had Disley coming through the middle, scoring double digits from central midfield. And there was enough goals in the team to not play particularly well, but still win a lot of games. And I think certainly during our bad run of form, that was an issue. I think we've turned the corner a bit, which is good. But I think Tuesday is just kind of sums up the issues that the underlying issues that have been a problem for the last couple of months.
Absolutely. Everybody stay there. I'm going to do one of these posh transitions that Henry likes, and we'll talk about our game yesterday against Aldershot. See, they make sense if, like, you've moved camera.
Yeah, we're getting abused from Tom. He's happy to abuse us on social media, but he won't come on and he won't come on the podcast. What's that about?
Tom, stop being a coward. You've got the link. Come on. It's calling us doom mongerers. I mean, I got to admit, I don't like those I find those defeats far more frustrating than the Chesterfield one we had or the Notts County one we had, where it's just, these are the teams you should put away. The same we had with Aldershot. And with that, we got our revenge against the bastards from GU postcode.
I feel like, well, Hurst kind of said it in a post game. The home game against Aldershot on Saturday was kind of how the away game should have gone. And I feel like it's how Tuesday night should have gone. We got the early goal. Feel like we were in second gear. I think compared to last Saturday against Notts County, where there was such a big intensity in a big game, lots of pressing, there wasn't that so much, but we were comfortable enough. They made enough mistakes. We created enough chances, and we won 3-0 and 3-1. Sorry. Apart from a mental lapse at the end, I can't remember Crocombe having to do a single thing. Really, it was sort of a bit of a coast, really, which is exactly what we want in those kinds of games.
I still don't think, Henry, we don't look like fluent like we did at the start of the season. Even though we scored 3 less, like you say, yesterday. The first goal was not really crafted, was it? It was we sort of hit the post, didn't it? And it ended up coming to Sousa with a sort of a tap in at the back post. And then the second one, the keeper should have saved that, shouldn't he? If that had been one of our keepers, we'd have been going ballistic today on the pod today. We were chatting to a couple of their fans who had had a couple of pints on the way down Grimsby Road after the game as they were heading to the station, and they were absolutely fuming with the defensive frailties that had given us, they thought, the 3 goals. And I mean, the third goal, I can't remember the build-up, but obviously it was a shot that was saved. We didn't stick away initially, was saved and then parried straight back to McAtee, and it looked, to be fair, like a good finish at the second attempt from a narrow angle. But I mean, I've just written down, we as I've mentioned before on the pod, we sit in the lower at the Osman end, so we sort of get to see our right hand side generally in the first half, and I don't know what it's like the other side, but a lot of the time when we're on the right hand side, we seem to end up, you know how we pass the ball along the back a lot. We try and sort of switch it from side to side, and it doesn't go directly from right back to left back very often, because I don't think at our level they've got the confidence to ping those kind of balls. It goes via Waterfall and Pearson and then comes back the other way again. And sometimes we're critical that that's a bit slow. But the ball, when it ends up out at the right back, it often feels like we've got Sousa and Afete isolated. There's not a lot showing from the centre of midfield in front of the ball. You know how you said about Disley getting forward and was quite attack-minded. I think in the centre of midfield we're still lacking that player that wants to get forward with the ball. Reiki looks nice on it, but he's often sort of level with them or behind them and sort of stroking it around a little bit like the 2 centre-backs are. Is that fair, or am I being overly doom-mongerish?
I think Reiki has impressed me in the 2 games I've seen him. I think he does sit deep, but I think he's kind of playing the Fox or Coke role. But I think the criticism on Tuesday was he's about the only player that would pass it forward. So he does get on the ball. I've been really impressed with him. I think we do lack a Disley type coming from deeper and being a threat sort of box to box. I feel like if we could play Harry Clifton next to Rahiki, I think he'd be sort of more of that type of player. I think he's been forced out on the left really due to circumstance. I think if Maguire-Drew comes back fairly soon, hopefully they'd give Clifton a run next to Rahiki in the middle, sort of a bit deeper, and we might see a bit of improvement on that. I thought Burgess was quiet in the game.
That was noted on the commentary as well, that the game sort of passed him by a little bit.
He reminded me of Hunt a little bit, sort of young, skillful sort of player, but kind of quite quiet in this kind of game, and that's where Rahiki, I think, stands out. And because he's always looking to get on the ball, he doesn't disappear in so far. So I've been really impressed with him. I think in an ideal, I think the team that played on Saturday is nearly our best 11, apart from probably Maguire, Drew in on the left, and I'd probably put Clifton next to Rahiki, and I think that's probably our best 11, to be honest.
Yeah, and it'd be nice to have Max Wright to come on 60 minutes, 70 minutes to stretch the play.
Yeah, I think it's really disappointing that he's injured again. But we were saying in the first half against Notts County when we were struggling, where's Max Wright? Where's Max Wright? But I think Hurst clearly doesn't trust him and him staying fit, and I think that's completely fair at this point, really.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with him just being an impact sub, but I want to know sort of how was Sean Scanner with more than sort of 20 minutes and more than one game of every 6 months to him? Did he offer much? Was he the sort of level that you guys expected, or was he just a bit of a nothing? Oh, he's all right.
Yeah, he was all right. He didn't do anything spectacular, but he got on the ball a bit. He made a few runs. He had sort of 15, 20 minutes, I think.
What about you, Bruce? What did you think about him? Oh, here he comes. He's coming.
He was on the far side of the pitch to me, but
he looked really small.
Burgett, but yeah, he was on the far side, sort of, and he was in the opposite corner. He was in Harrington corner, sort of, as I was looking. People said he did okay, but like I say, we haven't got the best view. If I was in the upper, I might have a better view. But there was only one thing I would say about Burgess. There was a point in the first half, Henry, where I think it was McAtee should have played him in. He was in acres of space in the penalty box, and he had got in the box, and Clifton got in there once very early on in the game as well, I think. But like I say, we don't do that enough. We don't get the midfielders or one of the midfielders into the box often enough. Quite often when we're attacking, you'll look and we'll have two players in the penalty area where really we could be sort of three with another one coming or something like that.
And
it was job done yesterday. Job done yesterday for me.
Job done yesterday, but yeah, I'd agree. I think there's a few sort of situations where Taylor might be pushed out wide, sort of in the build-up play, helping out a winger or making a sort.
Do we want to put the video up of Tom putting his socks on while we're talking? I can see him on my camera.
And so there's occasions where Taylor will go out wide, and because we're playing a lone striker, you end up with nobody in the box, and that is where we are just crying out for a deep midfielder to make a run like Disley used to, really. And I think if we had that, then we'd be scoring far more goals in games like that. But I think overall, to be honest, it was a bit of a second gear job, really, is how I felt. I thought it was, it was quiet, to be honest, at Brundle Park. It was dreadful weather. And we sort of coasted to a 3-1 win, so you can't really complain, to be honest.
Here he is, the milk tray man has arrived.
Hello. Can you hear
hello,
me?
mate. Yeah, all loud and clear, you're good. So I guess the question to the group is sort of, are we seeing a return to the performances that we had at the start of the season, or is it just a continuation and we're getting a little bit more of the rub of the green than we were when we were playing teams like Chesterfield quite well and unfortunately not taking any points?
Well, first of all, I just want to say you lot are bumming me out. Anyone would have thought we lost 3-1 yesterday, the way you lot were going on. Bloody hell. I'd take 11. What was it? What have we got? 8 points from the last 12 available, or is it more than that? No, it's 12, 9, 10 from 12, isn't it? That we've had from the last 4 games. I think that's a pretty good return. Not ideal, the result against Kings Lynn. But I'm looking at the other teams around us now. Obviously, I didn't realise that Chesterfield had lost Tishmanga yesterday. That's a massive blow for them. He scored like 50% of their goals in the league. So they're going to be struggling. And obviously their manager situation as well is a big blow to their rhythm. And then 5 out of the top 7 are in the last 8 of the FA Trophy. Henry was talking about games in hand earlier saying, oh, when all those games are caught up, that's probably going to catch up with us and we'll end up in ninth. It might work in our favour this time. In previous seasons in the conference, we've gone deep in the FA Trophy and then ended up playing like 9 games in March and April or whatever. Maybe this time round, we're the team that's not playing all the games in March and April, and we're the team that's fresh on a Saturday, and we're moving up the table. This is the relaunch of our title challenge. You know, we're only 12 points off top of the league. We can win the league still. You need a bit of positivity.
I never
come and
thought
drink some
I
of my
would
wacky juice.
I would never thought I'd have heard Tom saying that we need to toss off the FA Trophy. Because
no, I did not say that.
That's your
Certainly not
implication.
drinking those happy juices.
Tom's saying the way to succeed is to get out of the FA Trophy early, so you don't have those games to worry about. You heard it here first.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it could play to our advantage that they have gone deep in the competition. And yeah, okay, the performances haven't been what we want in the last, but I don't think you can criticise too much a 3-1 win at home, no matter who the opposition. The Kings Lynn game, obviously a big disappointment, but it sounded like we dominated the game and just didn't get the ball across the line. Another one of those situations where that handball at the end, another day the penalty, the ref gives it, you stick. Well, I mean, any other team sticks the penalty away, they've got to try and get somewhere. The back line's opened up and you bag it and another couple of goals and everyone's going, 12 points out of 12. We're really up for the Southend game. If we win 5 on the trot, flipping it, we can do it.
Tom's our Max Wright. Tom's our Max Wright, Alex. We brought him on 3/4 of the way through the pod, and he's injected that pace that we needed.
He's going to get injured in a minute. He's going to do himself an unfavour.
He'll have a throat like Liam.
I thought this was. I honestly thought we got criticised for being the Happy Clapper podcast.
I know. I thought we just. I don't want to get too high. I don't want to get too low. Cy Hoder says, would anyone like to see Abraham's given a little bit more time? I've yet to see him play, so it'd be really interesting to see what you guys think. My initial reports I've had is he's a bit of a shithouse, and it's something a bit quick and a bit of a body up front. I don't know if that's a correct assessment of his ability so far.
I think he needs more time. I think playing the lone striker role is difficult, and you only get used to it by playing it. And Taylor's playing well, and really you're not, unless he's injured, you're not going to drop Taylor. So Abraham's in a little bit of a tricky situation to get settled, but I'm sure the more he plays, the more he'll become comfortable and become a threat.
I think one interesting point that I think it was Bruce, it might have been Henry, about substitutions and us playing the ball across the back line and almost, I don't know, I guess overplaying it in a way. I was having a conversation with Elliot Jackson's colleague at the weekend, who covers Sheffield Wednesday, and we were talking about how there is this sort of tendency now to dismiss things like if you've got someone who could do a long throw on your team, not use the long throwing anymore because it's seen a bit archaic. I think sometimes, like in those games against, like, say, Kings Lynn, where we're trying to pass it, sometimes I'd like us just to like throw on a big man and just lump it forward and just try and cause a bit of chaos in the box. But we can't do that.
That's what Lenny's
anymore.
for.
Yeah, we can't do that anymore because it's like old hat, and you're supposed to play like tiki-taka and work the ball across the back and then work it forward and then drag the other team across and get that spare man on the other side and switch it quickly. And I don't know, I think sometimes we could maybe those like smaller teams, it's great to see us keep trying to play football the right way, so to speak, but sometimes I would just like us to like go, do you know what, fuck it, let's take a defender off, stick another attacker on and absolutely go for it.
I mean, I'm all for that. My dad has said Aldershot's goal was the best one of the game. It sounded pretty impressive on the radio, but it almost sounded like an off comment, like, "Oh, where's he going? It's going to go through." It sounded pretty, but it sounded like Oxlade-Chamberlain's cousin, I think it is, was slightly annoyed that he got nicked off his toes. I don't know what anybody else thought of that goal.
He did the same thing. He did the same bit of skill about 4 times to beat 4 men. He just sort of like dropped his shoulder and just went about 4 times.
He did a pout and step over, did he?
They all just fell for the same thing. And Max Crocombe was understandably well pissed off when it went in.
That's his clean sheet bonus out the window, isn't it?
Yeah, he just sort of strolled in. I mean, it was a good bit of play.
Get the Chinese with that.
But yeah, it was disappointing. It was disappointing, and as I think your dad said, we just completely stopped playing with 20 minutes to go. But yeah.
James Howe says I like to see a team that can absolutely launch a throw in. You can launch a long throw and still play football. Makes teams hesitate whether you put it out for a corner or throw. That's basically how Cheltenham got promoted from League Two last season, and the reason why Wrexham's paid 200 grand for Ben Tozer for this season as well, because it gives them that opportunity, doesn't it? It's always a really good story about how Tony Pulis found out that Rory Delap could throw. It was just an off comment. He goes, "Oh yeah, I can throw it pretty far," and he basically looked like a kid at Christmas when he worked out how far he could throw it. And it sort of launched this new, pardon the pun, attacking set piece opportunity. And most teams now need to have someone that can at least throw it to the 6-yard box.
I'd love to see some statistics on our set plays, in the sense that, because it's not always easy to realise if they're doing something from a set play, because you're watching the ball, and it takes, I think, quite a disciplined fan to not watch the ball coming from the corner and just look at the 18-yard box and see what runs being made. But I'd love to see the statistics for ours, to see how many actual training ground moves we do from set plays per game, because I feel like when Hurst was at Shrewsbury, the clips of Shrewsbury that I saw when he was there featured more things that had clearly been worked on in the training ground. Like in the game that they played at Wembley against Lincoln, they scored from a set piece that England did against Panama in the World Cup, and Harry Kane, I think, scored from it. And I think the game generally at the top end is going more that way. Like Liverpool have a throwing coach. Italy at the Euros had a specialist set plays coach who had 2,000 different set plays in his armory. And I'd kind of like to see us do that more. And it always surprises me that it's not visually more evident when I go and watch Town that they've done something that's clearly been worked on the training ground. Because for me, if I was a professional coach, I think that would almost be like the type of goal that I'd love to see us score, because you might have worked on the Friday and then you go and score on the Saturday and it's actually come off and you're like, yes, we've done that. Yeah, that's definitely, I think that is the way the game will go at the top end. I'd love to see us do it more and try and jump the gun on some teams. Lincoln did it to great effect, didn't they, when they were in the conference?
I'd love to see our players trying to figure out the code for free kick number 967. We've got right arm, left arm, or both arms. Beyond that, you might have to start looking for some sort of signal.
You need to go on American football on it, Bruce.
Yeah. We'll have to be Mensa to play for us.
What I would do is I'd have say 100 set pieces that I'm going to do throughout the season, and then for a period of games I'd say select 10 set pieces, and we'd learn, say for the first quarter of the season, I'd take 10 set pieces and we would run those 10 set pieces, and then for the next quarter we'd do another 10, and then the next quarter another 10, and work it like that, so that when teams go and look back at your videos, they're looking back maybe earlier in the season at the set pieces you did in the first quarter, and they're not actually the same. So you're always one step ahead of the opposition because you're moving through these different phases of set plays that you're doing. And then I'd only run them, say, if you get, I'd run them maybe 3 times in each half. And I'd have right, first corner, third corner, fifth corner, and then first free kick, third free kick, and then mix it up the next game. I don't know if footballers be able to remember that much, but you could have like a system of hats, couldn't you? Blue hat for this one, red hat for this one.
Well, you could always just have something on the side of the pitch, couldn't you? Like, you could, like, I don't know, pick up what, like, the old numbers that you used to have for substitutions. You could just put up number 11 or something like that, and they can go from that.
Maybe Mighty Mariner could have a board.
Or maybe we could get, this could be a bit of fan involvement. Now we've got both ends of the pitch ground are ours. Can't the corner taker sort of whisper to the fans in the pontoon corner like what number it's going, and then we all shout 6, and then the players react off of that, and then you've got some sort of interactive entertainment and tactics, and we could all feel as one.
We could all do a vote. They could do a 20-second vote while a free kick's being set up, and then the number goes up on the scoreboard.
We can use Slido. You do the live polling. What do you want, short or long corner? And you go from there. I mean, that's a great idea. I mean, and you could throw in 50p a go, and all of a sudden you've made if Tom is a lover of the short corner routine, he can put in as many 50p socio tokens as they were doing in the Premier League, and made a small fortune. Look, I mean, Tommy, I will happily oblige you as obviously Darren what is the name of that bloke from Peterborough? He sort of leaked the fee. That was it. He leaked the fee. So let's go over to Despot Corner and we'll have a discussion. Welcome to your Despot Totalizer. We have updated the figures that are all rough and are all sort of guessed upon from recent information and such. So it's been announced that Dembele gave us a £550,000. So we're adding that on top of the £100,000 that we already got for Peterborough's promotion to the Championship. And it takes us, ladies and gentlemen, you can get another red felt tip and add it to the church roof, because it takes us under the 1 million mark if that is the case. So we are less than 1 million away from getting rid of our own mini little Vladimir Putin, allegedly. Anything else to add on that, or can we now scoot out of Despot Corner?
Aren't we just over 500,000? Aren't you going the wrong way?
No. That's how much we've got. Oh yeah, that's how much we've got left. We've got 0.95 million left to pay, I think.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
That's what I think. That's all right. I'm glad. I hope that helps everyone. We will leave Despot Corner now. I didn't need to see. I've got to change that now. I don't need to see that man in just half naked. There we go. I mean, is there anything else to add before we do that? Tom has come in, done the max right, added a little bit of energy towards the end of the show. We've sorted out our corner routines and our set pieces. Are we? I don't know. Are we expecting great things at Southend? Liam sounded positive. It sounds like it's going to be a nice ding dong, and I think most of the pod are there, including the flag.
I think it'll be a good test. I think if we get sort of a point or anything or a win, I think we can consider that a good result. I think it'd be interesting to see where both teams are at, really, because Southend have been on a great run without beating the top side, and we're still. I mean, we had a great win away at Notts County, but we're still sort of fixing our away form. So I think for both teams, it'd be a really interesting one. And I think Friday night at Roots Hall could be a big crowd. I think it could be really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sorry, Bruce, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it could be quite low scoring myself. I think it'd be quite tight. I think we'll set out initially to keep it tight, and then as the game goes on, as long as we're in it, then maybe go for it a little bit more. And I don't think, if they've been playing, as Henry said, they've been playing a lot of the lesser teams in the division. They would probably be thinking the same as us. 3 points, okay, but a point's not the end of the world.
I mean, we should really talk about this before we do go, because we have mentioned it. So the Times put up a quick article about the town's fans' behaviour at Nottingham. I think there is a problem with drugs in society, and I think more people have access to Class A drugs like cocaine now than they used to 5-10 years ago, and it's become more acceptable to a point. You aren't ostracized for doing it, especially in sort of working class settings. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe journalists are just slightly annoyed that the working class are starting to take their drug. But I thought it was a bit of an exaggerated piece.
Yeah,
given,
Sorry, Alex. I think.
Yeah, go ahead, mate.
Being there, like, it was lively. Like, let's not get it wrong. And there were flares in the concourse, and not everybody was behaved perfectly. But at the same time, there was no trouble. No one went on the pitch. And I think it's a combination of a middle class reporter trying to sterilise football, along with Notts police who love to sort of paint us in a very bad picture. Whenever we've been to Mansfield or Notts County. I think you're right. I think sort of the drug use is on the increase, and it is a wider problem in society. And I think it's highlighted by the fact that there's far more drugs in London offices than there are. What was it? 4 bags were found on the train or something.
It was 8, I think, and that's what of 2,500 people that could have taken.
Yeah, like it's far more a problem in middle and upper class circles than it is in working class circles, to be perfectly honest. But a middle class paper like Times likes to try and kick us. But that aside, the behaviour wasn't perfect on Saturday. It was quite lively. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't perfect.
11 out of 12 bathrooms in the House of Commons were found to have cocaine in them.
Exactly. So yeah, it's frustrating. It's really frustrating that we're the one team that got pulled out for it, when we are certainly not the only team where there's people who have taken drugs, even if it is a minimal number of people. And that picture being put in the Times was incredibly unfair, I think, on the poor lad. Yeah, I think the whole article was a bit of a joke, really. And the condition of the train was, again, like, there's two sides to that. Yeah, the train shouldn't have been left in that condition, but at the same time, there was limited carriages. There was one toilet, and they knew that there was 2,000 people going to Notts County. They knew it was going to be a day out, and they did nothing about it.
And they made sure to go out on social media to say, "Look, we're putting on extra carriages," when in fact they put on 1 extra carriage. Is that right?
Exactly.
And what we did point out on the Twitter as well, it was very annoying that one of the things that was pointed out is Grimsby Town fans are arriving 5 hours early. Well, we have to. There's 3 fucking trains from Nottingham.
Yeah.
Did you want? Bruce said, like, he leaves early to go.
That's irrelevant, though. Like, it's not a crime to arrive at Nottingham at 10 in the morning. The same way, it's not a crime to arrive at the races at 10 in the morning. I think there's two train services between Grimsby and Nottingham before 3 p.m. because the train services in the north are shit. If this was a southern game and we were travelling an hour across London, there'd be a train every 5 minutes, and there wouldn't be that overcrowding issue, and there probably wouldn't be a trash train.
There'd be a lot more cocaine.
There's a whole combination of things that make that article a bit of a joke, really, and there's not a lot that we can do about it. But at the same time, we have to be aware that our behaviour, because we are, we do have a reputation. We have had a high arrest rate in the past. Our behaviour gets overly scrutinised. So yeah, it's disappointing that it was in it, but the only thing really is going forward. How is that gonna? Can Notts Police or any police force use this as a result, as a reasoning to ruin our kickoff times going forward? That's the main bit of concern about me.
And we saw this week
the club or whatever. Like Millwall got, they've got sniffer dogs in or whatever at every home game and all that, and You know, there's countless clubs that have been talked about it, but I think in our particular case, the thing is the kickoff times. And can police forces use this article now as they appeared in the Times for this, so therefore we're going to put them on Tuesday night or Friday night or whatever.
You would hope not, wouldn't you? Because that's just going on somebody's say so, isn't it? You would hope that anything that changes like that would be based upon fact rather than what a reporter says. If there had been 50, sorry Alex, if there had been like 40 arrests or something, then but like you say, I've not heard of I've not heard the figures of if anybody was nicked or not.
The bit that made that just showed what a joke the article was the Grimsby fans were singing that they're going to invade the pitch when Grimsby score, and then they tried to invade the pitch, but then the next line it's no one invaded the pitch. Right? It's like, well, what's he on about? We sing we piss on your fish, but it doesn't mean that we go around actually pissing on fish, does it?
I do.
It clearly was so out of touch.
Well, I'd like to pick up 2 points there.
Get him on the pod.
Bruce,
get him on the pod. We'll have a go at him.
Bruce said that you'd like to think that police forces won't take that, but just look at Stevenage with Bragate. They took that from our own despot leader saying that women were trying to smuggle flares in as Tampaxes and in their bras and whatever, and that led to the situation that they had at Stevenage. I can imagine that they will do this. We've just seen this week as well that policeman tried to trip up that guy, football fan walking down the street. We've seen Derbyshire police openly mislead, shall we say, fans by saying that Grimsby Towns had trashed the pubs and pubs did not want to be open when our SLO and our trust went to them and went, well, no, that's not true. They wanted to stay open. The police told them to shut. And then they had to print a correction, which they've now deleted from their website. I think we do have, Ollie's asked, like, how do we improve our reputation? I think our reputation as a club is improving all the time. I mean, people do roll their eyes now at the footy scran stuff and the food, but that helps. That really does help to show town off as something else, joining the fairer game stuff and the silly things that we do. Like, I remember when we did the mariachi band thing and that all the town fans were giving out their bloody hats and sombreros to Barnet kids as they were leaving the ground. And that stuff is only going to help improve the reputation of the club.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the work that Debbie and Christine do is going to be vital going forward. But it's also on all of the fans to call out any bad behaviour that is there and minimise it.
Yeah, and if it's your mates, that's the best thing. If it's your mates, just go, come on, lads, like, we all want to go home. I don't want to spend the night in a bloody paddy wagon, for Christ's sakes. Like, and there is that fine line, isn't there? That picture at Notts County looked amazing with everyone piled on top of each other. It only takes like a 6-year-old to be caught in the middle of it, and then it's a different image, isn't it? And it's a different problem. But we then also had that tweet came out that's saying how wonderful town fans were with their 3-year-old, and it's our responsibility as well as everyone else to promote that stuff when it does happen. And you're all bloody wonderful anyway, so ultimately it won't be a problem. And town fans are at heart a decent set of lads and group that just like a drink and apparently a line of Coke.
Yeah, it's just, I think we've all just got to be aware that our behaviour is going to be overly scrutinised, fairly or unfairly, and we've just got to take that into account.
Bit of work, love a bit of poverty porn, don't they?
Indeed,
everybody loves a bit of poverty porn.
Well, that was the thing about the article, wasn't it? It went with the headline Grimsby and then spoke mostly about Leicester and Nottingham Forest fans. Yeah. And Grimsby was basically the byline because it's the grim town in the north, and Nottingham and Leicester are two more sizable university cities. Right? It was. As Henry said, it was fucking shite.
Yeah, it was. Well, I think we're done. Like, we're rambling to the world, but hopefully that was it. I hope everyone enjoyed it. We'll see you all on Friday at Southend. Bruce, you're going, aren't you?
I think so, yes.
Yes, you are. Good. Tom is coming. We're going in the Skoda Octavia estate in the party bus. Yeah. Nothing says lines and Coke than a Skoda estate.
Is that the M25 on a Friday tea time?
We will be leaving very early. Because the amount of times I've left for Colchester twice and never made it because it was just awful traffic. But we will see you all very soon. Thank you all so much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed it. We're back on the run. I hope Tom's positivity has helped you. We are going for the league title is essentially what's happening. And can we just mention actually, and Scunny losing as well, very fucking funny. We shall see you down here next year unless we win the league. Bye everyone.
Bye.
Scunthorpe United have lost 4-0 at home to Exeter City this afternoon.
Love it.
Open wide for some soccer.